Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. I am the Nighthawk, along with our usual cast of characters. To my left, Mr. Super Dave Handy, and to my right, Mr. Duke Forrest. And you would think I would start the show tonight about Tiger, but that's not the big news.
No, in fact, I would have thought you would start it north of the border, in fact.
What is the big news?
Not
Didn't catch the
surprising.
big news?
Not
Big news.
surprising nor shocking.
Oh, I know. Claude Julian?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Canadians have fired head coach Claude Julian and associate coach Kurt Muller. Julian was in his fifth season of his second stint with the Habs. Montreal had gotten off to a very impressive 8-2-2 start, but they slipped recently, posting a 2-3-2 record over the last 7 games. Dominic Ducharme will assume the role of interim head coach, and Alex Burrows has been added to the coaching staff. I would like to sincerely thank Claude and Kirk for their contributions to the team over the past 5 years, during which they worked together. I have great respect for those two men who I hold in high regard, says Bergman. In Dominic Ducharme, we see a very promising coach who will bring new life and new energy to our group. We feel that our team can achieve high standards, and the time had come for a change. And of course, Dominic Ducharme was a very, very, very good hockey player for the University of Vermont Catamounts.
Oh, really? I didn't even pick up on
I
I
remember.
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, he played in the early 90s.
that. Is that right?
Yep,
Wow.
yep.
Oh, that's wild. I didn't pick up, and I was listening to the TSN 690 folks for quite a while today. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Ducharme, basically, I knew when they brought him. I think they had a backroom deal with him. Basically, you're the head coach in waiting because he was going to leave their organization. Ducharme was in the third season as an assistant coach with the Canadians.
Wow.
Before, he had spent 7 seasons as a head coach with the Halifax Mooseheads and the Drummondville Voyageurs in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He won the Memorial Cup with Halifax in 2013 and was also named the CHL's Coach of the Year award that year. Ducharme was also head coach for Team Canada in the 2017 and 2018 World Juniors, earning the gold medal with the squad in 2018. So I think
Is he a francophone, by the way?
he speaks French.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
In Bergman, and I was pretty busy today. You know what, Duke?
I think aren't
Stupidly,
a bunch of people thinking they fired the wrong guy today?
no,
no?
no,
Is that
no,
right?
no. Bergman. I mean, Tyler Toffoli has got the second most goals in the NHL behind Austin Matthews of the Leafs. Josh Anderson's been playing great. Now, the biggest culprit on the team is Carey Price. Carey Price has turned himself into a very average goaltender.
Sorry, Hawk.
Who's making a paltry $10.5 million, which is the highest paid goaltender in hockey. He has a 2.95 goals against average,
He's big in that league.
which is huge, absolutely. While Josh Allen, the
Back up.
backup goaltender they picked up from St. Louis over the summer, he's got a very nice 2.14 goals against. I believe Allen should be the number one goaltender.
Really?
You know, I don't care who Carey Price is. He probably will turn it around, but to me, he's got to earn that number one position back. And I will go as far as saying, with the expansion draft this summer of the Seattle Kraken, the Canadians should expose Carey Price, not Allen. Jake Allen, not Josh. Jake Allen.
Jake Allen.
Yeah. I doubt Seattle would pick up a $10.5 million salary. Carey is from the British Columbia, but just not playing well.
The line of the TSN folks, their line seemed to be, I was Knuckles Nylon, heard a bunch of different people, but they just seemed to be saying Canadians, after what you said was their great start, have just kind of fallen off the rails and stuff.
Yep.
Their speed, one of the fastest teams, they've lost their speed somehow.
Yep.
Well, that's not really Claude Julian's specialty anyways. Wasn't his specialty defensive, close checking, tight?
Yeah, because that was a beef he got in Boston after a while, I think.
He's not this new NHL
Pretty,
is very,
pretty conservative.
I
Yeah.
think what happened him with Montreal for letting him go is exactly what happened to Boston. They stopped listening to him.
All right.
I think he's a very old school coach
Yeah.
and a very new NHL. Because if you watch hockey today versus a dozen years ago, you wouldn't even recognize the game. It's
well,
completely.
there's hardly any checking. It's all speed.
it's
Hawk, did you see, was this stunning news? Did you see this coming? Did anybody see, did
neither a
anybody see
shock
this coming?
nor a surprise to me. Something had to be done. I told
Really?
you before the season, watch out. Canadians could go a long ways
Right.
this year. And
But was there talk about this? I had heard nothing about this.
I whispers,
Yeah.
but again, it was a well-deserved firing. And I like Claude Julien.
No, Claude's he's a great guy.
About 4 or 5 years, about all you can do in NHL now.
Yeah.
There's hardly any coaches that are longer than.
And tell me, is there any more pressure coaching position in any sport than coaching for the Canadians?
Yeah, although maybe a little less with nobody in the, no fan, we're not talking no fans, right? But yeah, no, that's a pressure job.
Yeah.
Maybe the food tester for North Korea has.
Yeah. So the Canadians, as we sit here right now, the playoffs started tonight. They're in. They're the fourth place team in the North Division. But I really expected at worst is to finish behind Toronto in that North Division. And again, they've only played 18 games. It's a 56-game schedule. They certainly have time to turn things around. Now, as far as your Bruins are concerned, Duke, just playing good hockey, steady hockey. They're first in the East over the Capitals. And Tuukka and Yaroslav, the goaltenders, are just, again, playing superb.
Well, I didn't even think of their outdoors game the other day. I didn't even think
Yep,
of that.
7 goals in the extremely picturesque Lake Tahoe,
Yeah.
right next to the
State
I
lake.
line.
guess they had a tough time with the Saturday game because the sun was tough on the
I
ice.
heard
The
the
sun
ice was the ice better for the Bruins game?
The sun
Well,
was
they played it later.
yeah.
Okay.
The sun was beaten on the ice and had ruts in it,
Really?
and I mean ruts you could see.
Wow.
They called it after the first period. They resumed play Eastern time at midnight.
Oh, is that right? They called it for a while?
Yeah,
For
that
5 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
Eastern time, they midnight they resumed play.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
what was it? The Bruins played the following day. Was
Yeah.
that it? And they played Philly.
I was reading that they don't have a problem with the temperature being warm, but the only times they've had trouble with the outdoor ice
The sun.
is with the sun.
Yeah,
The sun, they can't seem to filter that too well.
interesting.
Yeah. So Duke.
Wow.
Yeah. Am I still confident the Habs will make the playoffs? Yes.
Yeah.
There's just way too much talent on that team,
Yeah.
and just not scoring enough. Lifeless, if I had one word, and they need to inject some energy onto that team. And I don't mind being a bad team if I know
Right.
we're bad.
Like
Okay?
last year.
Right, but he certainly did enough, Bergevin, to bring some really good players in here.
So you have no beef with him, with the GM?
No, not at all, not at all.
Did any words from Claude after he got axed? Did we get anything from
You know,
Claude?
So I'm working today, and I always listen to music, and this afternoon I was listening, like, the anthology of Paul McCartney and Wings.
Huh.
So it never dawned on me to click onto 690. I mean, an epic day of you should be listening to
I
it.
had a lot of 690 today.
But truth be told, they would regurgitate the same stuff about every 20 minutes. So I'm good with that, and they'll be playing tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So Duke, you asked me last week, and we always run out of time.
Boy, Celtics deserve
About the
some attention
Celtics.
here. I'm almost thinking they're becoming an afterthought here. And even a few rumblings for the first time ever, I think, about Brad Stevens.
I will,
You're our Celtics guy. I did
Marcus.
catch the end of the
okay.
game last night. Jeez,
Oh, yeah.
Doncic, a couple of unreal shots.
Marcus Smart has been out,
Right, that hurts.
and don't let anybody tell you any different. He is the heart and soul of the team.
Yeah.
You can take Jaylen Brown, you can take Tatum. Marcus Smart is the guy in the team. Now,
And Kemba, I think Kemba's becoming the real sore point. You know what Kemba's getting for the next 2 years, Hockey, on top of that?
he's getting max
You
money.
used to complain about Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
I think you got a much better person to complain about.
Oh,
How's
absolutely.
Gordon Hayward doing?
Boy, I think
Averaging
he's doing,
about 24.
all right,
So he's
doing
playing pretty well.
Yeah, he's playing
He's-
well.
I mean, he's like the key. He's a big man on campus now, isn't he, down there?
Exactly, Duke. You hit the nail on the head. That's what he wants to be, is the BMOC. And he is with the Hornets. Let me check.
I can tell you, Kemba, how about 72 mil the next 2 years?
Yeah.
Holy
35
moly.
and 37
Yeah,
or
and
37
like tonight,
and
they
35?
played last night. They're playing tonight. He can't play back-to-back nights. And this is a guy earning, $38 million a year.
And his shooting, he's just, boy, he's not shooting well.
He's
And
had
and
some
he's
good
certainly-
games.
And he's not a good, he's certainly not known for his defense, right?
No, and he hasn't been consistent. But part of the problem with the Celtics is Danny Ainge accumulated a lot of draft picks. We all assume,
Some of whom worked out pretty well.
well, if you're saying Tatum and Brown,
That's what I'm saying.
your kid could have picked Tatum and Brown. They were the third pick overall in the draft. I don't.
But I mean, he still got him because of some of those trades. So
Yeah,
they weren't their
right,
picks.
but they weren't difficult picks. It's like when the Nationals drafted, they had the first pick 2 years in a row. They got Bryce Harper 1 year and Steven Strasburg.
but he was
it
able to
didn't take a genius to.
But he got top picks as opposed to the Celtics, way down the line.
But the last 2 years, like Romeo Langford out of Indiana, he's been
Nothing
hurt
so far.
most of the time. And the other pick they got last year, Grant Williams, we get very little
Yeah.
out of him. He doesn't look like an NBA player. This year with the 14th pick, Aaron Neesmith
Boy, has he done
out of Vanderbilt, and Jay Billis, the college basketball expert, who I do respect from
Yeah.
ESPN, said he was the
Dookie.
best pure shooter in the draft. Hasn't shown me much. And Payne Pritchard, who I fell in love with
Yeah.
the first few weeks of the season, his play has regressed. And somebody said recently, and I hadn't given it much thought, but it was so true. First round picks in the NBA really don't mean that much. You get on all these one and doners coming into the league at 19, and
You don't know what you're getting.
they're not developed, and they might have peaked already. And a lot of these draft picks are now Robert Williams, who we
I
took.
was about to mention it. He's showing some life.
Robert Williams was the 27th overall pick in 2018.
I was about to
He
mention him.
is starting to play
Yeah.
better, and I'm a big fan of the Time Lord Robert Williams.
Yep.
So now the biggest reason, Duke, is two guys averaging 26 points. Okay, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And my criticism with them is they want their shots. They're not the type of players that make players around them better players. They're thinking of themselves. I'm seeing these
Definitely
guys
feel that for Tatum. You'd say that as much about Jaylen Brown. as
more
Tatum?
about Jaylen Brown. Tatum's
Really?
a natural scorer. I would have no issue of getting rid of Jaylen Brown
Really?
and getting something of value
Really?
for him. I think they're more interested in their personal stats. I will tell you, being a lifelong Boston Celtic fan, this year, it gets worse every year. This three-point basketball,
Yeah.
bringing the ball down the court, maybe one pass,
Yeah.
and people are throwing out three-point shots.
Yeah.
And it's
You got
Boring.
7-footers. You got 7-footers who are shooting.
Joel Embiid, he'll throw up a few
They,
three-pointers, right?
David.
Nobody rebounds. The average offensive rebound is less than like 5 a game or something.
There's very little
It's
offensive
terrible.
rebounding. Centers are expected to throw up three-pointers, and that's the type of thing you can go to Holton Park and practice.
Yeah.
But it's not good, fun basketball.
No, it isn't.
Working in the paint,
agree.
muscling in the paint.
Yeah.
It's just,
It's like a lost art.
it's basketball is a whole different game, and again, I don't want to sit here and sound like that old man that says, get off my grass. Things were always better back in my day when we walked 20 miles to school every day. But
No, I think the three-point shot, boy, for going ahead 20 years and stuff, looking back on that, boy, I think it will increasingly maybe be criticized.
Well, I
And
think,
college is the same pretty much.
I think if I were to,
if you were commissioner for a day, David, go ahead.
Unless- move it
well,
out, move it
I'm
out
not
another
sure,
5
I'm not
feet or
sure it's the three-point shot in and of itself, because they've had the three-point shot for 40 years. Larry Bird used to win the three-point shooting, but Larry Bird would only take 2 or 3 threes a game.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue is that these guys are coming out of college, they aren't prepared, they aren't as well skilled. The fundamentals of the game are gone.
Yep.
Just like in baseball, same as football. The guys are athletes, they can run fast, they can jump,
Yep.
but they haven't learned their trade.
David, you're right. They're great athletes, but not good basketball players.
No. And
let's grab a call.
oh, wow.
Good evening. You are the first caller tonight on Franklin County's #1 sports show, the best damn sports show in Franklin County. Hello? Hello?
I'm Jackson. I think I was listening to you, and I think they should keep Jaylen Brown. That's kind of all I want to say.
Tell us more. Why do you like Jaylen Brown so much?
Because he's been doing good this season.
But Jackson, I think the problem is it's all about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They're not sharing the ball. They're coming down the court, taking shots. They need to share the ball. It's not good team basketball, and there's no reason for the Celtics to be playing sub 500 basketball. Now, do you think they're going to turn this around and start winning?
Jackson, have we still? Yeah, you got him.
They'll do good and they'll do bad. Like, they'll win games and they'll lose games.
Now, I will tell you, that is my grandson. He's 7 years old,
All right,
and he
Jackson.
knows more about the NBA than 90% of the people I know.
That's
This
great.
kid
That's great.
lives and eats and sleeps Boston
So
Celtics basketball.
is
And he's a
big.
very good basketball player.
Um,
So the Celtics play tonight against the Hawks. So instead of complaining about it, let's go out there and get a victory tonight. Of course, we'll see Trey Young. We've just been complaining about three-point shooters. Trey Young will cross the center line and put the ball up.
Hawk, are we talking a little dissension in the ranks too? Aren't I picking up on a bit of dissent on the Celts? Seems like I've been picking up that as I give a little attention to the bus and beat people.
Yeah, losing will certainly do that. Now, Jackson, what about Robert Williams? He's been playing pretty good, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, so, well, thank you so much, Jackson, for calling.
Thank you.
Bye, little
Thanks,
buddy.
Jackson. See you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I've even been hearing that and a few rumblings kind of for the first time about Brad Stevens.
Yeah.
But what about the other night? Again, Zion and
Are you
company.
talking about the 24?
24, how do you lose a
24-point
24-point
lead?
They were ahead by 24 and they
Yeah,
lost.
in the second half, third quarter, 24-point lead.
Against the Pelicans that are 13 and 17. They've been losing to teams that just are not that good.
They kept Zion under wraps in the first half. 4 points. Zion just ate him up in the second half.
And I'm telling
How's
you,
he doing? Is he pretty good?
Absolutely.
he's averaging 25 points.
Colin
and he's still out of
Cowherd
shape.
will rave about him.
He doesn't run up and down the court that good. He's a football player playing basketball, but
No, he's pretty.
Just wait till
he's
he-
good. He's good.
grows up and gets better conditioning.
See, now think about it. This guy, he still should be in college.
Right.
He,
would-
if
along
he
with
were
half the
still at
NBA.
Duke,
He'd be a
he
junior.
was learning the finer points of his game with a craftsman like Krzyzewski,
Absolutely.
teaching him stuff, getting himself into shape.
Yep.
But I don't think, you can say that about a bunch of people. I don't think Zion's your
No,
best
but he's-
example.
Right.
I mean, Zion's still a pretty good player right now.
But think of how good he could be.
Yeah.
Think of how good Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was when he came
Yep.
to the NBA. Now, Kareem could have played, I'm sure Kareem could have played when he was 18 or 19.
Yep.
But and having John Wooden coach him and in college coaches, it's a lot different than in the pros.
Yep.
The pros, the coaches don't talk to the players that much. The head coach is sort of like a CEO. It's the other
Yep.
coaches that are doing the coaching.
And David, that's the funniest thing, because back in the day, Red Auerbach was the only coach and the general manager of the Celtics.
Yeah, they didn't
Now
have-
you look now, and there are 5, 6 assistant coaches on the team, sitting behind the bench.
Yeah, different world.
No, so I think that is just a huge, huge thing. This lack of maturity.
You can say the F word, fundamentals.
Fundamentals, of course, but it really is bad.
Well, David, answer me this question. These guys are supposed to be the world's best players, and most of them do not play defense. And why does not the coach say, David, you don't play defense, you're not getting out on the court? I mean, it's just disturbing to me.
The inmates are running the asylum because if you look at the NBA, I don't know what coaches get, but they sure as hell don't get $35, $40 million a year.
Yeah.
When you got a $250 million payroll for 12 guys,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and when a coach says, look, Tatro, if you don't start running up and down the court a little bit, you're going to be sitting.
Yep.
The next thing you know, he wants to be gone. And then these guys actually put the teams together in the offseason, starting with LeBron a few years ago. They grabbed their buddies and they all have to have their own big three.
Well,
it's all crazy.
So what happened this year, Dave, with Brooklyn? You got Kyrie, you've got Kevin Durant, and you picked up from James Harden.
Right.
James, the big three. That's the East
Supposedly,
Conference.
though, they're playing pretty good now.
They are playing good.
It might be a case that offense is, if you have a good enough offense, don't worry about your defense.
Yeah, the Nets are only a half game behind the Sixers, and you're right, Dave. There's no reason to not think the Nets will end up first place.
But if you're a coach, those guys aren't young guys.
No,
There's a big difference.
there's a window right there.
And those guys are probably thinking, you know what, we've only got, because Kevin Durant has hardly played for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
He didn't play at all last year.
He didn't play at all last
And I don't
year.
think he played a lot the year before.
yeah, correct.
So,
One year, I mean, the Celtics have like dropped out of sight. Like I said, an afterthought. Last year, I mean, it looked like they were, a lot of people thought they'll be in the finals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreal. They just seem to have precipitously dropped.
Good word. Do you know what player would really help them out right now, Duke? Gordon Hayward.
They could probably use Gordon Hayward.
No, they picked up veteran Jeff Teague. I thought it was a great pickup.
Has he been injured? I don't even hear his name.
Duke, you have to look way down at the end of the bench. He's
Really?
completely out of the rotation.
Wow.
But the Celtics
And
have
Tristan Thompson hasn't been any great shakes, has he? Okay.
average at best.
Yeah.
Daniel Tice has played well, and as we mentioned, the Time Lord Robert Williams has really picked
Yeah,
his
he
game
looks
up.
like- yeah.
I think he's going to be a player. But the second unit's young, and as I mentioned earlier, these draft picks really aren't turning out.
Yeah. And their
any-
fourth quarter stats, as
Oh,
exemplified by
absolutely.
the Pelicans lot,
Yeah.
terrible. They're one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
In the fourth, they're just can't close. They get plenty of leads, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
No, pretty discouraging.
I watched the other day, sticking with basketball, I was waiting for the golf tournament to come on, and there was a Faraday interview with Bill Russell.
Oh, really?
No way.
Yeah, it's an old one. It goes,
Oh.
it's from 2012.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
I didn't know, but Bill Russell was a 7 handicap golfer.
Is that, boy, I didn't know that either. Is that right?
And there was a guy, he was good.
No, yeah.
He was as good as they get. And I love Bill Russell. I always won. I was a kid in the driveway, and I was shooting hoops. I was Bill Russell against Will Chamberlain.
That's great.
You know, I was talking to my grandson Jackson the other day about the all-time greats. And of course, everybody always says Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I brought up Bill Russell. I said, does not 11 championships out of 13 years account for anything?
Yeah.
And I mentioned to you guys before when somebody said, I don't know the exact number. Hey, Bill, you know, you only averaged 14 points in your career. What's up with that? And he said, well, I could easily score 25, 30 points a game, but I wouldn't be wearing 11 championship rings right
Sure.
now.
Look at-
Bill Russell
Was
with
all
team,
about winning.
It's all about
of
team, right? You're consummate
team
player.
basketball where players sacrifice their points per game. And exactly, I'm thinking Brown and Tatum like to see
one of
their.
he had a lot of little anecdotes, and of course he loved Red Auerbach, and
Yeah.
they were great friends. And Bill had a boy who was a really good basketball player, I guess. So when Bill quit playing, he didn't play in the driveway. He didn't touch a basketball forever. So when his boy was like 19 or 20, he was a college basketball player. He says, "Come on, old man. Come on, old man. Let's play one-on-one." And Bill says, "No, I'm done basketball." He kept goading and goading and goading him. Now here's Bill Russell. He said, "I probably haven't touched a basketball in 15 years." He plays his kid. He's ahead of him 19-0.
Oh my gosh.
They're playing 1 point at a time. And he says, "You know what? I'm going to let you get 2 points just so that I can tell your mother that you didn't get skunked." Now that tells you something right there about a guy. He hadn't played. He went up against Will Chamberlain. Will, can you imagine if Wilt were playing today?
Mm-hmm.
He was an animal.
Yep.
And he goes, "I was giving up 6 inches to Wilt and 60 pounds. And Wilt was smart, and Wilt was good. And we forget, of course, he was talking about Jordan, and Jordan was giving him crap, saying, "Well, I'm coming after you." He goes, "Well, you only need," because at this time Jordan had won 3 in a row. He goes, "Well, you aren't going to win 8 in a row, because that's what I did."
Yeah.
Isn't the stat, you think of 100-point games and stuff, most amazing thing about Wilt, maybe, he, correct me if I'm wrong, he never fouled out of a game, correct?
Never did.
That
That's
may be the
unbelievable.
most amazing sport.
That's
Never
unbelievable.
Being a big center and, no pun intended, the center of focus, never failed out of
That's
a game.
unbelievable.
And Russell was talking, when these guys talk about, when they talk about social justice and all that, he goes, of course, this was 10 years, and Russell always was a proponent. And back then, there was a good excuse for it. I
Yes.
mean, he said one time they played a exhibition game. It's either in Kentucky or
I think it was Kentucky. I remember the story too.
and they couldn't stay at the same hotel.
Right.
So he told Red, he says, "You ever do this again, you're going to do it
Yeah.
without me, because I'm." And he goes, and then we played a game one time in St. Louis, and he said, "Let me tell you something. Those people in St. Louis were very imaginative with the English language, and they used about 6 words very specifically." He said, "And you got to hear it for all 48 minutes of the game." He said, that was tough, but you know what? You didn't react to it. You just put it in its
Well,
place.
not to mention what happened. I mean, the famous, it's painful to even talk about it. His home in Reading, he had a place out in suburban Boston, comes home when, what somebody did to his home. But
Really? I never knew that.
I don't know the
Never
story.
Comes home and people had defecated all over his either apartment or house in Reading, Mass. I mean, that's what he ran into stuff like that.
He was very cool towards Boston for a long time.
Well, understandably, given how he,
Of course, Boston's not exactly, especially Boston in the 50s and 60s.
well, then not to mention the busing situation. Louise Day Hicks comes right to mind.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
so,
the busing situation was unbelievable.
Run that story
No,
by
just
me
when
quickly.
federal Judge Garrity, Arthur Garrity, just with, you got your poor black schools, your nice white schools and stuff. So the judge, and again, Boston just,
What year are we talking to?
oh, geez, I guess
70s?
probably when, 60s into the 70s, probably when I was in high school and maybe a little after that. But the judge just desegregating, forcing, black kids from like Roxbury to be bused into some of the, what had been all white schools. You can imagine how the good folks in Southie in particular went crazy. There's a great Pulitzer Prize winning photo that I saw last time I was in the late great museum. They have all the Pulitzer Prize with stories behind them. What a scary, it's one of the crazy white guys from Southie grabbing like a flagpole and stuff, and he's about to just harpoon one of the black guys here. It's a scary photo, but this was tough. Louise Day Hicks was on the school board and almost got elected mayor, running against Kevin White, the later Secretary of State. But these were real tough times.
yeah, no, I have nothing but the utmost respect for Bill. Bill's,
Great guy.
yeah, he's at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
Hawk, were you saying, I forget if we got into this, Tom Brady, do you now regard him as like the greatest, I forget, did you get into that? Greatest
Yes.
sports
Yes.
guy? I mean,
Yeah.
can't
And
you
in
make
fact,
it great? Can't Bill Russell,
You
be in
certainly
that
can put
conversation?
Bill Russell right up there in the
Yeah.
top five, no question about it. And again, it's called sports, and winning has to count for something.
How about Maurice, not Maurice, but Henri Richard? How many Stanley
11,
Cups?
11 Stanley Cups? Is that what he got?
And Jean Beliveau, he's got like 10, doesn't he?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys are royalty. They're the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a client the other day. I just said, listen, it's tough to make comparisons from one generation to
Yeah.
the next.
Yeah.
However, when we're looking back, and I always like to respect the folks I watched when I was a kid, but they did not have to deal in a free agent era, okay? And Brady's played his whole career during the free agent era. And I can tell you, the Dallas Cowboys in the early 90s could have been the greatest football dynasty of all time.
Yeah.
And they win two or three
I
Super
think they
Bowls.
won 3 in 5 years,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they were decimated with guys leaving. They win Super Bowl, and they're able to cash in on that, and they're gone. And
See,
when
kind
there's
of
this,
reminds me of, good teams with people leaving. Or
Yeah.
The
frenzy
other
exploits.
thing that decimated Dallas and had to account for at least 2 or 3 less Super Bowls was Jerry Jones firing Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, probably not a good,
Right.
good move.
Because I don't care what you say. Any of us could have coached the team that Barry Switzer coached.
Yeah.
That team was good.
yeah, Barry Switzer came in, the old Oklahoma coach, and good friends
With Jerry Jones, but he wasn't much of a. He
No.
was not a. He
No.
wasn't a football guy like Jimmy Johnson.
No, not at all. So, and speaking of Brady, I did see that the Bucks would like to engage him in a contract extension.
Really, he's got 1 year
He
on
has
his
signed
current
for the
contract.
upcoming 21 season.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, I can see where they might want to talk about another year or two,
Yeah.
maybe.
yeah. But you know what, David? When you keep yourself in impeccable shape / condition, a quarterback is really more of a mental position
That's true.
than it is a physical position. And these quarterbacks,
Probably especially these days
in
when
today's
they've made it
football,
so easy.
they're not throwing the ball much more than 10, 15 yards. It's not like when we were kids and they were heaving the ball. Remember Fran Tarkenton to Homer Jones?
Yeah, we got a call, Hawk.
And good evening. You're on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Hello.
So much to talk about, so little time. Where to
Hey, Len.
begin? Pocket Rocket and his brother together had 19 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
Wow.
11 and 8.
Yeah.
So that's, and like I said about the firing of Claude Julian and Muller today, I think I looked at their stats, and not one of them had a goal or an assist.
That's
So
true.
that was my comment on that.
Yeah.
The bread man, Timmy Paneran, that's quite a story. You on top of that?
We haven't spoken about that, so that is an interesting story.
Timmy Paneran is a Russian NHL hockey player who had much success with the Chicago Blackhawks. He played for Carolina, I believe.
No, he went
Now
to
he's a big
Columbus.
star. Columbus, was it? And now he's a big star with the New York Rangers.
Yeah.
And he is a opponent of Putin in the sense that on his webpage he posts pictures of Navalny, the guy who was
Poison?
allegedly poisoned by the Russians and went to England and rehabbed and went back to Russia, and now he's in jail for 3 years for some trumped-up charge. He'll probably never leave jail alive, but on Panarin's webpage, he kept a picture of Navalny and his wife and 2 kids, and he's been outspoken against Putin, and he's from Latvia, I believe, Panarin, and his old hockey coach from 2010 or 11, the guy's only 20 years old then, comes up with this story that he, in a bar after a game, he, at 20 years old, he hit a woman in the face, knocked her down. There was, he was not convicted, but he was, charges were brought, and 40,000 euro to buy the judge off, and they've done interviews with people on the team during that time period. They've done interviews with people who were in the bar with him. Apparently, there's absolutely no truth to it, but that's just the way the Russians do business. They put out false info if you don't happen to agree with the government, and he's just totally, I guess, shaken up by it. His grandparents still live in Russia. He's got relatives that live in Russia. I don't expect him to be going back to Russia.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a good idea.
Leonard,
He's on it.
is he in hiding, you think?
No. I don't think he's in hiding, but I just think he's shaken up. He's just totally shaken up by it. And who knows? Maybe they've arrested his grandparents. I don't. But I mean, it's just Russian, intrigue in the NHL all of a sudden. And he's one of the happiest, go-luckiest guys you'd ever see. Man, dollar smiles, and just a great hockey player. And speaking of hockey, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the elite teams this year in the NHL, I got the Blackhawks at 5 or 6. Much to my surprise, a third of their roster are first-year players. And they've got some talent. They've really got some talent. They fight along the boards. They fight hard. I've watched them play a lot of games. They got a young Finnish rookie goaltender who's been playing very well. And as I said, they're not an elite team, but they're certainly middle of the pack, maybe one notch above. And Patrick Kane's never played any better.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And they're doing this without Jonathan Toews and Kirby Dach, the third overall pick 2 years ago.
Yeah. Leonard,
the Jonathan Toews thing, I have no idea what's going on. I almost speculate he may have cancer and wants to keep it quiet because you cannot find out what's wrong with Jonathan Toews.
Really?
And they say he's out indefinitely.
Yeah.
And they, usually they say upper body injury, lower body injury. This is just mum's the word. Obviously, the press knows, but they're not saying. So I'm just speculating it's some really debilitating disease. And he was on a Hall of Fame track. Jonathan Toews, hell of a hockey player.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I concur, Len. I had the Blackhawks as a bottom 5 team this year.
Oh, me too. Oh, God, yeah. I bought the hockey package. I didn't expect to watch them much, but they're very entertaining.
Yeah.
They're physical. They battle along the boards. And as I said, they're young. I mean, Kubalik got 30 goals last year. I think he led all rookies.
Yeah.
They picked up a rookie from the Czech Republic this year, P.S. Stuka. Very, very good offensive hockey player, and they got some good defensemen, and they're just fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
The reason I thought they were going to be so bad, I knew nothing of this rookie goaltender because I thought Malcolm Subban was going to be their number one goaltender.
And he's not, but Subban hasn't played badly when he's been there.
Yeah. So I just didn't think he was a number one type goaltender. So tell me about this goalie. Where is he from?
We're from Finland.
Okay.
From Finland. And, he's a rookie. His rookie year. And he's played very well. He gave up 5 goals last night. They won in the shootout. But until the last 3-4 games, he's had about a 92% save percentage. That's probably fallen down a little now, but he made a ton of great saves last night. Thwarted a penalty shot, and it's not how many you make; it's which ones you make. Obviously, but a big deal in hockey when it comes to goalies. And what was Is you headed to Florida tomorrow, there, David?
Yes, 5:30.
On a little golf trip.
Yep.
Well, have fun. I understand from somebody on the trip that the weather's supposed to be good. And, you're playing, looks like a pretty nice golf course.
Well, I hope so. I told him, I said...
I've seen pictures of it. It looks like, doesn't look like a regular Florida golf course. It has some definition to the fairways.
I told him, I said, hey, I don't want to play the Alberta Country Club of Punta Gorda.
No. It looks like a corkscrew, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So you're playing at one course?
We're playing, I think, one course for 2 or 3 days, and another course. We're going to Pelkey's course on Saturday.
I see.
And his regular course.
So how many folks on this trip?
There's 3 of us, and then we're going to play with a friend of Michael's on Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday we're playing with Brian Pelkey, and then I think he's playing with us the last 2 days.
Brian is down there? Does he live there?
Brian lives down there.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
So
Wow. That
In the
sounds
winter.
in the winter.
great. Wow.
Right. He does come back home here in the summer
I don't know
months.
if he's a full-time resident or not. A lot of
Well, he may be. He may,
Yeah.
being
Tax-wise,
someone in
that
his
would make
business,
a
he
lot of
probably, he probably is.
well, there's a lot of good reasons
Oh, absolutely.
to live in Florida
Absolutely.
for full time.
And I did a little more studying on the Texas blackout, and that's going to be fun to watch politically down the road because they just totally dropped the ball. I mean, they were talking about this 10, 15 years ago. I mean, they just weren't ready for a cold snap. I mean, 25% was what, solar and wind, but they used wind turbines in Greenland. So the only thing that was wrong with their wind turbines were that they weren't winterized. That was the only problem with the wind turbine. Did you see pictures of their substations? When I was in the Soviet Union in 1982, that's what their substations looked like. The insulators looked like they're made of metal. I mean, they just looked so old and decrepit. It looked like a third world country, their grid.
Well, they had about 3 inches of ice all over everything because my kid Joe lives in Texas. And luckily he never lost power. He goes to Texas A&M. He's a grad student, and he's
College Station, Texas, right?
College Station. And he thinks that they were on the grid for the university, so that's why it didn't go out. And
I see. I know. I think El Paso never lost power because they're not on the Texas grid.
yeah, I've read quite a bit about that. You're right about the windmills. They never expected it to get wet and freeze because in West Texas they don't get much rain.
No. But their infrastructure is ancient.
Yeah.
And these people are getting bills. You probably read. I mean,
Crazy. Thousands of dollars.
They went from getting $300 a month to $10,000
Unreal.
for a few days. Because they're just trying to recoup the money, but the government's going to have to step in there, the Texas government anyway. And they're not going. They can't let that happen.
Well,
Can you imagine getting a $10,000 bill.
who
for
can
2
pay?
weeks
Yeah,
of,
for electric?
Green Mountain Power.
No.
We're lucky up here in Vermont. We really are.
Yeah.
My electric bill is $118 during the winter here from GMP. I mean, we complained about the taxes and everything, but I tell you, it was a pretty damn good place to live.
Yeah, it is. It's we were out moving the yard around today. It was fun being outside.
It's just a great road, interstate system. And I haven't talked about Tiger, I'm sure you have. Tiger, obviously, greatest golfer during his span. I don't think anybody ever topped him, but he's a high-ranking golfer, obviously. But when it comes to making good personal decisions, he's pretty low on the scale. And this is just another example of Tiger Woods making a bad decision.
Do we know anything? Sounds like he was going pretty fast, obviously. We don't know
Supposedly
anything.
he was late for a photo shoot.
Was late.
But I'll tell you what, I watched the interview on Sunday.
He looked a little shaky. In
He
that
looked like he
interview.
was
he did.
out of it.
Yeah.
He looked like he was
You know
out
what
of
I
it.
thought?
Yeah.
You know what I thought? When I heard he didn't hit the brakes, my first thought was suicide. Because that's one of the first things police, you've seen people on interstates cross over medians and go into the other lane.
Right.
And there was a doctor in New Hampshire that did that a couple, 2-3 years ago. He didn't end up dying, but he killed 2 people. And when you don't hit your brakes, it gives pause, to the traffic forensics people. I mean, and that is kind of an oddity. I mean,
That
it
is
wasn't as
weird.
if he was on the road going around a corner. He got right on the median right up and rode that median quite a ways, and then you straight line down right across the road that coming the other way and down into the ditch, rolled over. But probably the biggest winner is Genesis. What a commercial for their SUV. I mean, go through that impact. I mean, they'll probably sell more cars.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
probably
think
probably doesn't hurt to wear a
Genesis-
seatbelt either.
yeah, if he was wearing a
No,
seatbelt. But I would tell you, Leonard,
you're all the big SUVs today are safe.
they are. Most any.
I'm
Yeah.
just joking there, but
Yeah.
they're all the SUVs are kind of like trucks. I mean, the but before that, structure, the roof that stay intact after rolling over that many times, that just goes to show. If he was in some type of sedan, he probably wouldn't have made it.
Well, the roofs would have been the same, and actually, the rollover accidents. If you watch NASCAR, when the cars tumble, it's better for the driver because the energy of the crash
Gotcha.
is dissipated through the tumbling. What's bad is when you hit something like when Dale Earnhardt hit the wall. When you're going right in, you're going 160 miles an hour to zero, then the energy all has to go to the body. So,
Right. Oh, I can understand that.
so the tumbling is actually not a bad thing if you're strapped in, but we'll never know what the truth is with that. Just like all the other stuff with Tiger Woods.
He was unhappy apparently that morning because they're saying he almost hit a car leaving the
Right in the parking lot.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. He was out of sorts completely.
But he's the way he looked on TV.
Oh, he was slumped over.
His eyes were bad. He was.
bloated.
He
His
looked
face
pretty
was
shaky.
bloated.
Yeah, he looked bad.
Yeah, and he may have not even wanted to be on the West Coast, but he had to be obviously for his tournament, even though he didn't play in.
Yeah, what I read, and I haven't followed it that closely, he's been doing the last number of days a lot of television shoots, commercials,
Right.
and stuff, and that's
Yeah.
why A was his tournament, but B, he had a big commitment of
But 5 back surgeries. I mean,
Oh, and this will
that's
be
enough to make you-
the end of him for sure. I mean,
You would certainly think so.
when they're sticking rods and screws and pulleys and everything else in.
You'd think so. Not that I ever thought he would have won the 2019 Masters, but you'd think this would be it.
Yeah, and you know what? I've said it right since we watched that special on him a couple weeks ago. Where I would swap places with him for all the money he's got.
Really?
That miserable life he's had,
Oh, I agree.
compared to the happy life I've had, no way, not even close.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was in a gilded cage and forced to perform at such a young age. Never had a childhood.
No, and he never learned.
Abusive father.
And his mother, I don't think, was any loving woman either. I don't think she was a tough hombre too.
Well, of course,
No.
given her husband, I'm sure she might not have had the easiest
Yeah, that's
life.
probably not too good when. But Tiger, And living in a fishbowl, being a celebrity, and I know it's hard for us here on this show because when we get out of here,
I realize you guys probably have you'd have security, each of you, don't you?
well, we get mobbed by fans, and
Yeah.
women throw us their underwear and stuff when we're walking out. But it's a tough life, but we can handle it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm surprised you don't have some full-time bodyguard just get back to Jewett Avenue. Yeah. Anyway, how about a political trivia question?
As long as it's just a trivia
Abraham
question.
Lincoln, oh God, no, I'm not going to talk about. I don't even mention the man's name anymore. It doesn't exist. Abraham Lincoln had 2 vice presidents.
Oh.
One served for a very long period of time. Another served for only about 6 weeks and became president.
Andrew Jackson.
Johnson.
Andrew
Johnson.
Right, he's the one that served for about 5-6 weeks. And
Correct, yeah.
Became president when Lincoln
And was impeached and
assassinated.
missed being convicted by 1 vote. First
That's right.
president to be
And,
impeached.
That's correct. And it's interesting though, the vice president that served the longest for him, he was vice president from 1861 to 1865, is a New Englander. His name's Hannibal Hamlin.
Okay.
Wow.
Born in Paris, which was then Massachusetts, now Maine.
Yeah, man.
First Republican vice president in the history of the United States. Lincoln put him on the ticket because Lincoln, being a Midwesterner, he figured he needed part of the Northeast to counter the South in his first election. And he bagged Hannibal during the second election because the way things were turning, he wanted some sympathy from the South. So he turned to Hamlin and took Andrew Johnson, who arguably might be one of the worst presidents in the history of the United States. You certainly make that case. But anyway, he had a 50-year public career. United States Senator on 2 different occasions. He was a governor. He was Boston Port Authority head, which is the money job, and you get appointed to that. And he's buried in Bangor, Maine. So there's
Wow.
a little history on Abraham Lincoln's first vice president. Very famous Mainer. One of the most famous ever, actually. Quite a career.
Leonard.
Quite a career. Yeah.
You know who's considered worse than him, worse than Johnson as a president, is Franklin Pierce.
Yeah,
They are a good New Hampshire boy.
Too highly. But you never know. You got to give history a chance to percolate. Before I'd like to see how it plays out in 100 years when they start reviewing this again.
Oh, it'll be fun.
But anyway, I don't want to go there.
Leonard, paying any attention to spring training and your Braves?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got our left fielder back, and he was 2/3 of the way to the Triple Crown last year. He was just one leg away, and if he has his season at the plate like he had last year, the Braves. I think the Braves are the team to beat in the NL East. I really do. Yeah. I think their pitching is top notch. Their bullpen, they need another right-hander, but I think their bullpen will be fine. And they just need a little better bench. And they need Austin Riley to learn how to lay off the slider. If he can really become the real deal, then they're going to be almost unstoppable offensively.
Yeah. The Mets did pick up a pretty good pitcher last week in Tajon Walker.
They did. They did. But the Mets, though, it's like they're star-crossed. Until the Mets win, they can get all they want.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Leonard,
their pitching staff, as good as it's been, they're always susceptible to injury, it seems, their pitching staff.
Yeah. Leonard, did you hear that there's still a slight chance that the National League could have the designated hitter this year?
Well, I've heard pretty much no chance.
No chance. Okay.
I haven't heard any. I don't know what the players, for whatever reason, don't want it for this 1 year. I guess they want it as a bargaining chip for next year when they go to negotiation. Mm-hmm. That's why they're not giving it up for free this year.
So
that's what I'm understanding anyway.
Leonard, what did you think about the comments about the Seattle president of baseball operations?
Well,
Basically,
it does.
basically opened the lid on how they restrict time. Of course, that's
not new. That's not a new story.
That's about as much of a surprise as when in the movie Casablanca, when the inspector is shutting down Rick's cafe, and Rick says, "Louis, why are you shutting me down?" He goes, "Well, I'm shocked. I'm shocked there's gambling going on." And then all of a sudden, the guy brings over, "Oh, here's your winnings."
No. I mean, I'm on Facebook with Todd Raleigh, and of course he keeps us abreast of Cal, and he said there's some documentation transcripts. Last year they wanted to bring Cal up in the 60-game season, and they didn't do it because, for obvious reasons, it wasn't even on the roster, number one.
Yeah.
And they wanted to control it. So, you might see Cal this year. I'm sure he'll start in AAA, and if it looks like he can handle AAA hitting, I think if a catcher goes down for Seattle, he'll be the first call.
Yeah.
Well, I think the players need to make a better contract next time and work on this. Of course, I think after baseball this year, I think you'll be about 2 years without baseball.
Great stat that Buster Olney threw out today.
COVID's still going to. It impacted obviously the revenues tremendously last season. It's going to tremendously impact the revenues again this season. The players can't go in there. They're moaning because some good-looking free agents don't get signed like they did in previous years. Well, hello. The market's changed, and if they think they're going to ask for the world, they're not going to get it.
Yeah,
you're right. We could be without baseball for a year or two. You're right about that.
Thank you, Leonard.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome, and safe travels there, David.
Oh, we'll be good.
Thanks, Len. Take care.
Thank you, Leonard.
Bye-bye.
The stat I heard from Buster Olney on 101.3 was, so much for free agents, getting that big payday. 2/3, I think he had 68% of free agents last year ended up getting a pay cut. I suspect some of them didn't even get a job, probably.
Well, they've got a lot of issues with baseball.
All right. There's always one player that sticks out like a sore thumb that overvalues their skill level. This year, Jackie Bradley Jr. will be the poster child.
Still nobody.
And I read in November, I mentioned, I think last
he ends
week,
up back with the Red
his
Sox.
value was slated at 4 years, 8 per year, 32. All right, sounded all right. Then I read a few weeks ago.
He wanted 12 or something?
He wanted $12 million a year for 4 years. And again, he turns 31 in April. He's a lifetime 239 hitter. Okay, he's not going to change his spots. And apparently the Red Sox are still talking to him, but he has zero leverage right now.
But one factor that might come into play, guess how many black players the Red Sox have in their line? How about zero?
African American?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
How about none?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
but
might
they
be-
got plenty of black guys. They got all those Dominicans.
Right, but I'm just saying, I'm talking African Americans, none. Well,
Well, American blacks, the percentage of American blacks in baseball is probably as low as it's ever been.
We talked about Boston's history. That might be one reason. Hey, maybe not the worst thing to have one black player on our team.
Well, see, that goes to one of the things that I complain about completely.
I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying
but
that might come into play a little bit.
I think it would be just like the Celtics need maybe a couple more white guys.
Yeah.
I think the Red Sox should take the best 25 players they can get I think the Celtics should take the best 25 players they can get, and whether they're black or green or yellow.
Oh, sure, I don't disagree,
Yeah.
obviously, but Jackie Bradley might well be one of the best 25. Not like they have a team of all-stars.
So
But I don't think Jackie Bradley's that good.
let me point out, like,
Yeah, I think he hit.
he had a good 60
He didn't have a
game
bad
last
season.
year. But
Didn't he get up to about
again,
270
he's
or something?
31, and he's only at 239.
He's one of the best defensive
Oh, he is.
outfielders in baseball.
Yes, but that's not worth $12 million a year.
No, I
In this
agree.
market, even $8 million, he's not going to get that. Now, the Nats signed the other day, just to show you how bad the free agent market is. They signed Jeremy Jeffries. You're probably saying who?
Right.
His major time was with the Milwaukee Brewers, and that's why nobody knows him. So he's got a lifetime 11-year career ERA of 3.08. Last year for the Cubbies, okay, he had a 1.54 ERA with a .94 WHIP, and he had 8 saves in 22 appearances. He wasn't the season opening closer. He had a really good year.
Wow.
The Nats, nobody picked him up, okay? The Nats got him for $1.25 million.
Really?
With another $1.25 in performance incentives.
Really?
There are guys like him out in the market.
Why wouldn't he have not gotten more attention?
Very good question, Duke. It's almost like we practice this. This is today's baseball, only 17 strikeouts in 23 innings, okay?
We're talking 23 innings?
Yeah.
So he's not a strikeouter.
Right, he has a career strikeout rate of 8.2 per 9 innings, which is very low for a relief pitcher.
Is that right? That's not close to average. That's low for a relief pitcher?
Yeah, relief pitchers come in and throw smoke,
Yeah.
and a lot of them were up around 12, 13
Really?
per 9. So, David, I actually had a question for you pertaining to Gary Sanchez. Now, if you would ask me November 1st if he'd still been on the Yankees this year, I would say not. 2018, Dave, he hit 186, okay? 2019, he had 232, but he did hit 34 home runs, and that's a perfect poster child of today's baseball, 232 with 34 home runs. Last year, in the shortened season, he had batted 147. He might be the worst defensive catcher in baseball.
And his rookie year, didn't he hit like 300 and have like 30-something home runs?
David, I had him in Canton, Ohio. 2017, his rookie year, he hit 278 in 471 at-bats. He had 33 home runs and 90 RBIs. It's like he came out of nowhere. And
He's getting progressively worse
Yes.
almost every year.
is this kind of like, I'm from Missouri, you're going to have to show me? I mean, could he be, if he's not performing, could he be gone by the All-Star break?
I think so, and they only gave him a 1-year deal. And he's really got to prove himself because he was just terrible. And they supposedly don't think that his catching is that bad, that he's supposedly a good framer of pitches, and he has worked on fewer pass balls. But I think he's kind of like a little bit like a golfer who's been tinkering with his swing too much, and then all of a sudden he can't hit his irons, and now he can't chip, and now he can't putt. And I think there's too much going on in his head, and he's lost. He can't do anything. And the guy, everything came so easy to him before because a lot of people thought he was the best hitter, certainly the best hitting catcher. He had a beautiful swing and was a great hitter.
Wow.
But now he stinks.
You got any hope that he can?
I don't think so.
No?
And I put him in the.
That's why Andrew Benintendi, that trade didn't bother me. It just seems like he's just so totally
There's
lost it.
another. I think maybe, and he'd probably be better off with a change of scenery.
Yeah.
Now, the Yankees were extremely generous with Brett Gardner, 37-year-old lifelong Yankee.
So what did they?
$4 million,
Oh, really?
which was $2 million more. It's type of 3 different a bonus of $1 million, blah blah blah. in essence, it was $4 million.
Well,
one year
they
deal.
like Gardner, and the problem they've got is they don't have any left-handed hitters.
Yeah, right.
They could have a lineup many times this year with not one,
that
maybe
right?
one switch hitter.
Really?
David, I look at the Yankees starting pitching, and I've got to tell you, it doesn't really overly impress me. Of course, you got one of the top 3 pitchers in the
Maybe
league.
the best pitcher in baseball.
And Garrett Cole.
All right.
Okay.
Maybe.
Corey Kluber, that hasn't pitched well
I give him a nothing.
in 3 years.
Hasn't pitched, what, 2 innings in 3 years or
Right.
something?
Is that right?
Jamison Talon
Another guy hasn't pitched in 2 years.
from the Pirates. Jordan Montgomery.
An average so-so pitcher.
And I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, Devi Garcia will be the 5th guy.
Maybe, or
Michael King?
Jermaine.
Didn't Jermaine beat up his wife or girlfriend, though?
He did, and he was suspended for it for all of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He's
of
a
course,
pretty good pitcher, though, right?
He was, but he's put out, I guess the word they used was cryptic tweets.
Really? That doesn't sound
And
good.
so he's a head case. Of course, one of the things I mentioned before, with these guys who are Spanish speaking, hard for them. I'd hate to be up in Montreal playing for the Montreal Canadiens and trying to explain myself with what little bit of French I know. I think sometimes if you're using a language that's not your first language, you don't quite get the words right. And so I'll give these guys a pass. Like, remember, who was the guy? He's with San Diego now. He's a shortstop for the Orioles. He said he wasn't
Manny
going to
Machado.
hustle. Yeah. I'm sure he didn't mean that I don't hustle. Maybe he meant to say, I really pick my spots. But if you don't have command of the language and you don't have the nuances, plus, let's face it, these guys aren't rocket scientists. They're baseball players.
Yeah.
They didn't get their degrees from MIT.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I give them all a pass on that, especially in today's super overheated environment where every little word you say in every tweet.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think the guy from Seattle was all that bad.
David, thank you. His sin was telling the truth, because if I'm a general manager of a team and you're a hot prospect, if I can retain you for one more year, if I just hold you down the minors until June 1st, David, you ain't coming up.
That wasn't, and why he really got vilified for.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch. What was the comment?
This guy, he was speaking like at a Rotary Club. And he mentioned the fact,
The Seattle GM?
the Seattle president,
President, okay.
the Dave Dombrowski of Seattle.
Okay.
He mentioned the fact that we've been alluding to about the player time and starting the clock, and how they've been holding players back even though they might be major league ready,
Yeah.
because they can't afford
Sure.
to start the clock on them.
Right.
All right. So that's opened up a big whole can of worms. But where he really got in trouble with the woke police was because they hired a guy who pitched for them, a Japanese guy, and they hired him to be a coach. And what he's ugly about is we got to pay $75,000 for an interpreter so that this guy can talk to people. And he goes, well, maybe he should have. He's been here for 8 years. How come he didn't learn English?
Is that right, 8 years?
8 years.
Wow.
And then there was, he made some reference to.
But didn't they tell him, you're not having the interpreter anymore? Then all of a sudden, you have to pay for it? Then his English got really good.
And then there was something about Hispanic ball players, some general comment. I didn't think it was all that awful.
Huh.
But, hey, in this world today, it's like Jeep. The head of the Cherokee Nation has told Chrysler they don't want him to call the Jeep Cherokee
Right.
Jeep Cherokee anymore. You know what that'll end up? Chrysler's going to pay them a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a common name for
Yeah.
Jeep.
I mean,
David, that Genesis Tiger was in. Who makes that vehicle?
Kia, it's a luxury brand run by Kia and Hyundai.
Do you
Hey, my
think
guys.
Kia paid Tiger to drive
Oh,
that
certainly
vehicle?
they've paid him,
Because
just
I-
like General Motors was paying him to drive Escalades a few years
Okay,
ago.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, not, I'm disparaging Kia/Hyundai, but I don't see a half billionaire driving around in a Kia.
Well, Genesis is Hyundai's luxury brand. See, all the car makers all have luxury brands, like Cadillac is
So
General
it's even
Motors.
above my great Elantra, you're saying?
Yes,
Duke
yes.
or David.
Which has been a very good car.
Does
by the
Hyundai
way.
own Kia now?
Hyundai and Kia are the same company.
Since when?
Oh, for the last 30 years.
Okay.
And just like the luxury brand for Toyota is Lexus, and the luxury brand for Nissan is Infiniti.
Huh.
So, and what they can do is they take the bones of the car, the chassis and all the stuff, and they rework the sheet metal a little bit and put a little more leather in it, and then they can sell it, instead of selling it for 40 grand, they can sell it for 60 grand. That's how that works.
Interesting.
Because
I remember a few years ago when I was shopping with you, you showed me a car. You said, see that car right there? Made in China.
yeah,
I don't remember which one it was.
it's your car.
Well, I've always feel good of supporting the Chinese.
Well,
Good friends in China.
hey, General Motors sells about 4 million cars a year in China, so it's not unlikely that they'll have a few plants there. And
Wow.
but that's a whole horse of a different
Yeah,
color.
yeah.
But anyways, no, this guy has been. They fired him on the spot, and of course in Seattle, God forbid you can't say anything in Seattle.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
that's the politically correct capital of the world.
Unless Portland's ahead of them, probably take
Yeah.
it back.
So, David, on the Yankees, expecting first place this year?
I think so, only because Tampa diluted themselves
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Getting rid of Blake Snell is a dumb move.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but none of the teams, I don't think any of the teams in baseball, even the Yankees, there's maybe one team out there really trying to win, maybe two, San Diego and the Dodgers.
Mets are trying this
Well,
year.
they didn't jump all in. They could have jumped in a little bit deeper, and
Well, it was huge. Everybody thought Trevor Bauer
was going to go to
signing.
New York.
That morning, everybody thought he was signing with the Mets.
I still can't believe they're paying him $40 million a year
40 this year, 45 next year, and he has an opt-out.
after each year.
Is that right?
And his salary for the third year is like $7 million. Like he's going to pitch for $7 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
They all the teams the salary cap and all that stuff
Let's grab a call.
is all out of whack.
Good evening. You're on the best damn sports show in Franklin County.
Hello, fellas.
Greetings.
Hey, how are you?
Good, doing good. A little baseball talk. Not a lot going on, really. But I watched, they had a interview with Tatis Jr. I think it was last night. I saw it via satellite. It was Kevin Muller and his partner, Rose. They interviewed him, and what a nice guy Tatis Jr. is. 22 years old, and he probably looks 20 years old. And they interviewed him 10, 15 minutes, all the right answers, big smile on his face. They went through some of last year, showing him hitting, Machado, Hosmer, the whole gang. These guys arguably have the best infield in baseball. And, they have a great team, and I don't watch a lot of National League, but they were pretty detailed on the Padres, and a great pitching staff, pretty deep in the bullpen, and, they kind of asked Tatis Jr., what do you think about the Dodgers? And, he complimented the Dodgers with a great team and all, but I really think, the Padres may be the hungrier team of the two. The Dodgers win all the time, and there may be a time where they get sick of winning.
Yeah.
And, the Padres are going to be a good team, and, they should really push the Dodgers hard this year.
Yeah. The problem with the Dodgers, though, is they have an open checkbook. They're well over $260 million, and it's just hard to compete. And, of course, we mentioned Blake Snell. couple minutes ago. He's on the Padres now.
Yeah.
But the Padres are spending obviously some pretty
Yeah.
big
And
bucks here.
Tatis should be smiling because didn't he sign a $340 million contract?
14
Yes,
years.
exactly.
Yeah, 14
14 years.
Wow.
And, and I got reading a little bit after I watched that interview, and I didn't realize that Bogarts had 3 or 4 years ago signed a 6-year, $120 million contract,
Yeah,
which
20 million.
obviously equates to $20 million a year.
Yeah.
But at the end of next year, he can opt out of that
Oh, yeah, I
contract.
didn't
Oh,
know
really? I didn't know that.
I did not know
No,
that.
I didn't either until last night, and he talked about it a little bit, and he was very polite and professional about it. But, you can bet your bottom dollar, unless the Red Sox ante up probably another 10 or 15 million a year, he will definitely be gone. The price of shortstops have skyrocketed. And, of course, Tatis will be the benchmark.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking Red Sox, Devers, he must be hitting the free agency within a couple of years as well.
One more year. In fact, yeah, I just saw a story mentioning Bogarts, Devers, and whatever. Yeah, Devers, they've got him for one more year. So after that, yeah, who knows?
I'll tell you, what, those.
You wonder why they didn't go after him like 2 years ago and try to sign him to one of these contracts.
You never know. They might have tried, but I don't think I remember reading about it.
Caller, that's exactly what people are asking about the Nationals, is locking up Juan Soto now to like a 12, 15-year contract.
Yeah, I read an article today on it where Soto said that they did speak to him, but he wasn't quite interested, I believe, at the offer.
Yep. And you mentioned shortstops. I think Trey Turner, if he goes on the market, is going to make a ton of money.
Huh.
So
Yeah,
now,
these superstars, these young players that are really good, that is a very, very smart idea on their part where they can opt out in like 3 years from now and kind of get market value again, which obviously will be a lot higher than what they previously got.
now, caller, I do have a question for you. I'm looking at the Red Sox starting rotation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tanner Houck?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
the guy, he's the guy who did
half
great
of
at
these
the end
names
of the
I'm not
season.
even familiar with.
Now,
they are in 100% a rebuilding mode. They don't come out and say it, but that's what's going on. A lot of these pitchers are just going to be fillers, I think.
Now, this
But
Tanner,
he did great. He had like 2, 3, or 4 great starts at the end of
you're right,
last
he
season.
came up in September,
He had
and this
3 good
kid,
starts.
Tanner Houck, is 6'5", 230 pounds. He was the Red Sox first-round pick in 2017. He pitched 3 games, and I'm not going to base his, 17
we'll
innings.
have this conversation
But he
in
looked good.
September.
Right.
Very good.
He had a .53 ERA with a .88 whips with 21 strikeouts in 17 innings. And I know nothing about him.
Yeah, no,
I just
he
stumbled
looked-
upon him.
He looked great.
But this guy looks like a horse, and I'm hoping he gets into the rotation.
Hey, maybe he'll be their first good starting pitcher who they drafted since John Lester.
Yeah,
It's
'cause
only been about 20 years.
So the Red Sox rotation, as we stand here now, Erod, Nate Eovaldi, Garrett Richards, Martin Perez, who I like a lot, and I think this Houck could end up getting the
and
fifth.
Chris Sale at some point, presumably, midsummer maybe?
They say sometime in June, and there's 3
No,
things
the
you can.
Red Sox are getting a tiny bit of buzz from total no expectations, but some of the beat folks are saying, hey, guess what? This team might actually show you something.
I've seen a lot worse pitching staffs
Yeah.
than
Yeah,
this.
they'll play 500 ball.
They don't have much of a bullpen, though, do they?
They did improve on the bullpen.
Yeah,
Matt
last year
Barnes,
was
Ryan Frazier,
unbelievable.
the old Yankee, Adam Ottavino.
Ottavino is Ottavino. If he's good, he's really
really
good.
But you know what they're missing? The face of the franchise. They don't really have a player that represents the Red Sox. I mean, like we had Big Papi for years. If you like him or not, he was the face of the franchise. When you said Red Sox, you thought of Big Papi. You say Red Sox now, you stop and scratch your head and you kind of say, like, who's on that team?
Yeah.
Bogarts, I think, by far is the best player on the team, but he's really not a face of the franchise. He's not like, a team captain type guy. It's just kind of a team without identity.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Bogarts is probably the closest they have to that, but you're right. He's a great guy, but a pretty quiet guy. But he's probably as close as
superstar.
anybody. But that's a good point.
Well, they had that guy, Mookie Betts.
Not they.
They had a guy who
Telling you,
was pretty good.
Dan Shaughnessy rips him every
I
column.
know.
He just keeps ripping him about Mookie Betts.
Yeah, there was no way Mookie was going to stay there.
Mookie didn't want to stay.
And,
Give me a break, Dan. Jeez.
Yeah, and we got a good return for him, I think. We got good young players, and Mookie is Mookie. He's a great player.
The Red Sox did a great job. They had Mookie for one more year. And that was it. So they did the right thing, and they got a superior ball player in Alex Verdugo.
He's another guy who's up after this year. He's another free
Oh,
agent
really?
after this year, I believe.
Because he's taken over for Jackie's
One
center
more
field
year
position.
for sure. I think he's.
Oh,
up
I
after
didn't know
this
that
year,
either.
I think.
I'll tell you what I'd do if I was owning the Red Sox. I'd come down with the same edict that the Yankees have on no facial hair and haircuts. The Red Sox for the last 10 years have been the dirtiest, grungiest looking team. You wear your uniform, you got a clean helmet, you wear clean caps, no shirts opened up down to your waist, tuck in your shirt. They need that. They look like a bunch of, they look like the not the Hilton, but the Huntington Hillbilly softball team.
Really? 'Cause I paid such little attention last year. I didn't know that.
But I think if you wanna get fans back, I think you got to start doing that. One of the things with the Yankees is those guys, they got beards all winter. When they show up to Florida, they're shaving them, and they get haircuts. And if they don't get haircuts, they slick it back. I mean, the Yankees don't look like thugs, and the Red Sox. I mean, who's the guy I'm thinking of? It wasn't Brazier, but they had all their bullpen guys got long, greasy hair, and they look like they haven't shaved, and they got Duck Dynasty beards. And you know what? Clean your act up.
The only question I have for these guys that wear beards, isn't it hot wearing
Sure
a
it
long
is.
beard like that in the middle of the summer?
Most of not most, but probably half of your sport people wear them now. Look at it in hockey, look at it in
Oh,
basketball,
awful.
baseball. I mean, it's pretty much that facial hair is dominating sport.
Yeah, beards are in, period.
And
Hey,
football's the same way.
And football and all the black guys with the dreads and the long hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a pain in the butt to keep clean and a shampoo and to take care of.
You'd think.
Oh my God! Especially for an athlete. I mean, be one thing if you're a movie star, but you know what?
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about any dreads on my hair because I got plenty of ventilation in the back.
But another team to watch that should be fun this year in the American League East is the Toronto Blue Jays. They have a hitting attack from top to bottom, and they've got a lot of young people involved in that. So that they should be good. They have a pretty good pitching staff, fair bullpen. So I put definitely them and the Yankees in the front running. And watch Tampa Bay end up winning it. But I give the Yankees the edge, and I think Toronto will come in second. And I think the Red Sox will play at least 500. They've got to kind of figure out who fits where. And the player they got for Franchi
Cordero.
Yeah, they have big hopes with him. I have never heard of him, but he looks like a real ball player.
Did he just go down with COVID though? Didn't I just see a COVID reference with him?
He did. Now, caller, I had him back when I played National League Fantasy Baseball. This kid was a young stud, is going to be a star with the Padres, and he looks fantastic in a uniform, okay? He looks like a ball player.
Yeah.
And he did not pan out. So I think if the Red Sox were contending for a playoff spot, not a good trade, but being potentially a 500 team, they can take a chance, a flyer on this kid, and hopefully he realizes his potential. So, and the other guy in the Red Sox, watch out for Hunter Renfroe.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about him.
Very good defender. If he plays 150 games, he'll get you 30 home runs.
And how many
And
strikeouts?
Duke always asks about the
200.
He'll get you minimum 150 strikeouts.
Yeah. Well, they may have a sneaky team, the Red Sox. They could possibly do better than we think.
There's certainly no expectations. Talk about an under-the-radar team.
Now, Duke, last year when Cora got fired, I did thank you for not bringing it up. I did remember this today when I was preparing
Yeah,
for the
didn't
show.
you give us a Nighthawk guarantee?
I did
He's never coming back to the.
I
I did give I looked
tell
right
you
to
you
the
were
camera,
crazy, right?
and I gave a Nighthawk guarantee.
And I did tell
Don't
you
be
were
stupid.
crazy.
There's no way that Alex Cora will ever come back
And
to the
I
Red
told
Sox.
you were crazy.
Of
That
course
was
you
just
did.
stupid. Right.
I'm your crazy little friend.
Okay, I'll let you guys go, and great show, guys.
Hey,
thanks for calling.
See ya.
So,
good night.
4.5 minutes to go. I just gave Duke an article I printed out of the Free Press. John Becker makes $100,000 more a year than I thought, $334,000 a year, and he received in the past 2 years $245,000 in bonuses.
Wow.
Now, John Becker is not a good coach. He's a great coach. And they've had a ton of success. They sell out the games, and I don't have a problem paying for performance like
If he got out in the open market, he'd be $2-3 million a year easy.
Really?
Absolutely.
Is that right? And-
Yeah.
Hey, when
$2 or
they're paying
$3 million?
Krzyzewski 11 or 12 million a year,
No, he's not exactly your typical.
nobody. I bet you if he were to go to a full-time, big-time, not a full-time, but a big-time conference, those coaches get a minimum $2-3 million a
That-
year,
is
$4
that
million.
right?
And I'm shocked
Wow.
Becker is still here.
Yeah.
Now, living in Vermont might count for something. Not as much pressure.
I was going to say, no, how about not as much? How about zero
All right,
pressure?
0. So now,
That's
UVM had a 2-game series against, what do you call them?
And
Baltimore?
thanks,
BC.
Doc. I caught some of the first game courtesy of you. I remembered it late, but boy, they lost the second game, right?
Yeah, they didn't shoot well. David, I learned something on this ESPN3. Say you can't watch it. Okay, you can't record it. That's where you get your remote and say ESPN3. Then you click on the game.
Yeah.
Just say you had a family event, they were playing at 3 o'clock. You can go home that night, 8 o'clock, and say ESPN3, click on the game, and it starts right from scratch. And if you don't know the score, it is like recording the game. So they have a first round bye, and they will be playing the America East semifinals a week from Saturday
In Burlington.
in
At
Burlington.
the usual 11 o'clock?
No, that'll be a 4 o'clock game.
Sorry.
Now, and that'll be on probably ESPN3. And if they win that, everybody's expecting a rematch of Baltimore College. They will play the following
Baltimore County.
Saturday,
Baltimore County.
Baltimore County, at 11 o'clock the following Saturday morning, the 13th.
Becker
pretty
was
usual.
saying that they had, 3 games in 5 days or something, they were tired. And then they hadn't played
Yeah.
before that in like 10 days. So
David,
Was a second game a close?
No,
close
no,
game?
they
Really?
played lousy.
David,
Is that right?
David, if David played, he would have been the best player on the team. They
Really?
couldn't
I
hit
don't
a
think so.
Bad game, huh?
They couldn't hit the broadside of the barn. Now, the hockey team, what? Played a total of 10 games. Seems like every other week. They're
One win, right?
Yep. So they're playing, and I don't even know if this is the final weekend of the season. They're playing at the Gut Friday and Saturday night against UMass Lowell, which is always a very good team. And of course, nobody there to watch it.
So they're actually playing this weekend?
Yeah. Now, Mike Babcock, the consultant of the team, signed with the University of Saskatchewan, okay? 1-year deal, and they wanted him to revamp the program, and he will be in the search committee for Saskatchewan's new head coach. Let's see, Duke, Brady Farkas, the guy that was let go.
Funny, he was on my list today.
Okay.
He's landed on his feet big time at WDEV.
He's at WDEV
5:30 to
weekdays.
7 show.
5:30, you're stealing my thunder.
No, I meant to
5:30 to
mention that
7.
weeks ago, and I hear him all during the day, too. Sounds like he's a key guy down there.
Yep. So-
Good for him.
What about our friend Tony Finau? Second again? I thought the guy was going to
Oh,
win.
and David, I
He
got
got
20.
a 64. I mean,
Yeah.
he played it great last
He
round.
did. He played great.
I've
Just
got
needed one more putt.
19 seconds to say goodbye. That's it. The
Ciao.
game is over. This concludes this edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. For Super Dave, the Duke, I'm the Nighthawk, and I forgot about Rich Cunningham, the engineer. Till next week, everyone, remember, you do not have to be a great athlete to be a good sport.
Ciao.
Ciao.
See ya.